Gabe Cook here with Debate Kansas City, continuing our series where we go through every speech in a policy debate round and describe steps you can take to write and successfully deliver that speech. Today we're going to be looking at the first negative constructive. Now this is the first opportunity that the negative team has to make their case for why they should win the debate round. The basic job of the negative is to tell us why we should not support the change proposed by the affirmative team. Now, the negative may argue that we should simply keep the current system as we oppose the change, or they might offer their own change and say that not the direction of the affirmative, but the direction of the negative is the way we should go. Today, I'm going to give you 5 steps to take in order to build a first negative constructive. And I've got a visual aid here I'm going to be using, and it's the first time I've used a visual aid in one of these video blogs, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, so check out step 1. Get to know the affirmative. That's your first step. Now this happens in a couple of ways. Some teams will do what we call disclosure. That means when they're on the affirmative, before the debate round, they will tell the negative team what case that they are running, and they will show you the text of their plan. Now remember, the plan is the piece of legislation that the affirmative team is supporting. And it's usually a piece of legislation, sometimes it's an advocacy statement. Either way, you want to get a copy of the plan or the advocacy statement before the debate round if you can, and that way you can get to know a little bit about the affirmative case. You can also ask the affirmative team before the debate round what advantages or what problems they're claiming to solve with their case. Sometimes the other team won't disclose, which means the only way you're going to get the affirmative is by listening to the first affirmative constructive. Either way, once you know what the affirmative case is, you want to try to comprehend what problems they're trying to solve, why they're trying to solve those problems, and the benefits that they're going to claim. As they read the first affirmative case, you want to listen to the evidence and look for holes or problems in the evidence. And just think about holes or problems with the affirmative case altogether. So step 1 is get to know the affirmative case. Alright, let's take a look at step 2. Alright, so step 2 is to find your files. You know what the affirmative case is, you've listened to it, you found some holes. Now you got to figure out what evidence you have to help you negate the case. If you're lucky, you'll have a specific file with the name of the affirmative case on it, and you can look in that file and find evidence that provides counterpoints to everything the affirmative is saying. The other place you're going to want to look is through your generic evidence files. These include disadvantages, critiques, and counterplans. And I use the word generic to describe an argument that applies to multiple arguments. So I might have an economy disadvantage that links to a whole bunch of different affirmative cases. So after I've sorted through all of my files, I'm going to select the ones that I want to read. And that's going to be a part of step 3. So step 3, developing the game plan, getting yourself a strategy to beat the other team. And it has 2 important components. The first component is that you want to develop a general theme or some type of story that you're going to be telling the judge. You want to try and take all the arguments that you make in a debate round and locate them behind some kind of central story if you can. So for example, on the alternative energy topic, maybe your theme or your story is that the affirmative plan is pushing us into a new energy source too fast, too soon during troubled economic times, and that moving too quickly is going to lead to economic disaster. And I couple that argument with some case arguments that say renewable energy isn't ready, along with the disadvantage that says renewable energy would hurt the economy. Maybe I want to tell a completely different story. I want to say that the real problem with energy is not what energy source we use, but how much we consume. And I run a criticism where I question the amount of consumption that happens in our country. And I say that rather than looking at new energy sources, I think we need a new outlook and a new philosophy on how we consume energy. Either way, you want to try and pick some type of theme or story to sell to the judge. And the second thing that you want to do is consider offense and defense. If I argue that the affirmative team will hurt the economy, that is an offensive argument. That's a reason you vote for me. If I argue the affirmative team can't solve for the problems they outlined in their case, that's a defensive argument. I'm coming up with reasons why the affirmative can't get to the goal that they have set. All right? So you want an equal mix of offense and defense in a debate round. And you always have to have some source of offense, right? If you didn't score any points, you couldn't win a game. So you've got to have some offensive arguments and some good defensive arguments. All right, so we've gone through 3 steps. You get to know the affirmative case, you locate your files, you pick your strategy. Now let's go ahead and look at step 4. So in step 4, you're picking the order. And here's what that means. You're going to tell the judge what order you're going to hit every argument. This is called a roadmap. And you develop your roadmap right before you give your speech. Maybe you want to read a certain disadvantage first, then you want to answer the solvency portion of the affirmative case, then you want to respond to the cause portion of the affirmative case. Either way, you select out every chunk of the case along with the off-case arguments you want to read and put them in the order you want to read them. And I would tell you the best way to do it is to put them in order of importance. Whatever is the most important argument you need to make in the debate round, you put first because you want to make sure you get to it. And then towards the end of the order of your arguments, you put arguments that aren't as important, that if you didn't get to them because of time constraints, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Alright, so you pick your order, and then before you give your speech, like I say, you literally give the judge a roadmap. You would tell the judge, I'm going to read 2 off-case arguments, then I'm going to respond to the solution contention, then I'm going to respond to the problem contention. And then you would start your speech and you would go down that order. So pick your order, let the judge know what it is, and then we have step 5. Deliver with force. Alright? This is your first chance to attack the affirmative case. That first affirmative constructive should have sounded great, should have been practiced, should have been rehearsed, should have made this great case for change. The only way that you're going to overcome it is if you come back with force and say, you know what, Judge, the affirmative has it all wrong in this debate round. You have to be passionate and you have to be confident to overcome what the affirmative laid out in the first speech. So if you take these 5 steps, if you get to know the affirmative case, if you find the files that you're going to use and you think about your strategy, you lay it out there, you've got plenty of offense and defense, you've got a story to sell to the judge, you create an order to let the judge know that order, and then you stand up and you deliver with passion, then you're going to be ready to deliver a top-notch first negative constructive speech. Hope this was helpful. Gabe Cook out for Debate Kansas City.